Welcome to this video in which I will give you a quick introduction to device mounting options. Who is this video for? It is for those people who use mounts or those who love and support someone that does. You may ask yourself, why on earth do I need to know this information? Well, please let me try and convince you. If you have a high-tech communication device, maybe similar to this grid pad or something like a Surface Pro, then to get best use from it, you want it mounted in a way that you can best access it. That means that it's always with you, positioned so that you can see or hear it, and so that it works best for your access method. That can be touch screen, eye gaze, switches, joystick, etc. Now, you are the best people to inform a therapist, an engineer, or a salesperson, or whoever is setting you up with mounts. If you are aware of the main options, then you can help inform the decision making around the best device mounting options for you or your loved one, and then hopefully avoid or reduce some of the possible issues you might face. So please watch and take note. There are four main types of mounts for devices: floor stands, tabletop stands, wheelchair mounts, and then clamps and arms. Each have a wide range of types that are suitable for a variety of purposes and to suit an individual's specific needs. I will show you a few examples and then briefly mention some of the pros and cons. It's also worth noting that device mounting is different from control mounting. Control mounting is about the equipment that connects to the device. So that can be things like switches, joysticks, and eye gaze cameras, and so on. Devices are the computer, phone, or screen. Although I should add, I have mounted a Nerf gun, so I think that counts as a device. All the images here are products made by Readapt. There are alternative mounting manufacturers out there. At Pace, we have a lot of Readapt mounts as well as their full assessment kit, so we're using them as an example. Before I discuss the mounts themselves, it's important to discuss the head of the mounts. They're all the same, so it's important to just summarize it quickly now. The head is made up of kind of three parts. It's got the socket, the adapter plate, and the holder. I know that sounds a bit technical. Stay with me. It's very simple, and we'll quickly get through this and get to the mounts. So first of all the devices that I will show you have this universal device socket, or UDS for short. This is on the mount, as you can see. This is on the mounting arm. This is the very top part. Or you might have something that looks similar if you have another manufacturer's version. This is attached to, again, the top part of the mount and receives this little plate, which is either installed directly onto the device, the computer, or is part of a holder. So at the bottom here you can see a holder and you've got the little plate on. You would install a computer onto this holder and then you would have the plate attached to that. So there are a wide variety of holders and methods in which you can put the plate onto a device. The attachment works simply by lining up this plate above the UDS and then sliding it down until you hear a click. So there's a little hole here, and then there's this little locking pin here that will spring into that hole when you've slid it down. It's really important to take the full weight of the device until you are sure it is locked in position. To detach the device from the mount, you take the weight of the device with one hand, pull the locking pin out and lift the device up. If you're having difficulties removing the device, hold it with both hands on the side and slightly rotate it left and right, and then try again. This should have freed it up and kind of repositioned it, so then it will slide out easily. The pros about this system are that it's quick and easy to attach a device to a variety of mounts. The negative is that it requires at least two hands and good vision to attach and remove. So floor stands. Floor stands are the best option for self-contained adjustability and flexibility in positioning. Most of them will allow for adjusting the height, distance, and angle of the device or screen. To do this, you just adjust the arm. So this is the arm of the floor stand, and you will just make an adjustment to that. Readapt have two types of arms. So they have this locking arm and the floating arm. So for the locking arm, which is these two front ones, on each joint there is a quick release bolt, and you would just adjust those quick release bolts and then make the adjustment and then tighten it again. The floating arm, which is my favorite, you can just move and it will stay where you placed it within its range. The only manual adjustment required with the floating arm is for the tilt angle of the screen. So you again have one of those quick release bolts that you just make an adjustment to. As floor stands are wheeled and self-contained, you have a greater range of where you can position the device within a room. Compare this to a tabletop stand that is limited to the table or surface that it's on, or a mounting arm that has a limited range depending on the mounting arm size and where it's attached. Floor stands also take less setup, are easier to readjust, and they carry less risk to device and user. For example, wheelchair mounts require a risk assessment to ensure they do not cause a tipping or fall risk to the wheelchair or hinder parts of the wheelchair. Clamps and arms have a higher risk of the device falling if they have not been attached securely to the surface. Readapt offer three kind of base types to the floor stand. So they have, right here, if you have a look, you have the classic, the Penta, and then the Mini. There are additional variations and accessories with all these options. The classic is great at going around a wheelchair, large chairs, bean bags, fitting under like a hospital bed or a raised bed. Penta has a smaller footprint, so often preferred if you have limited space and want to tuck the mount away in a cupboard or a corner. Mini is a very low footprint and a lot lighter in general, often preferred for younger children. The downsides to floor stands are they take up a lot more space than the other options. They are limited in where they can go, so it has to be a kind of a flat surface only, and only where they can be wheeled, so often just within one room. And they are the most expensive option. In regards to movability, I should mention there is a quick pack option on the classic base, which enables you to fold away the stand and transport it in a wheeled case, although that does require a little bit of takedown and setup. So tabletop stands. Tabletop stands are really easily transported. They can fold away into a bag and be set up quickly on a table, desk, floor, kind of any flat, stable surface. These mounts are more for infrequent or intermittent use of a device compared to the need of having something present constantly. Tabletop stands work really well to get a screen or a device like a tablet into an appropriate safe position for when working at a display screen. Compare this to the posture caused by using a traditional laptop. The adjustability of the tabletop stands are the most limited, and they require set on a flat, stable base, although some can adjust to a slight uneven surface. Tabletop stands are, I believe, or can be the cheapest option for device mounting. So on to wheelchair mounts. Wheelchair mounts provide the greatest consistent access to a device for people who sit in or use a wheelchair. Obviously, because it can always be with them wherever they go in their wheelchair. So that's home, out in the community, in the shops, at school, the park, etc., etc. If you're using your device for communication and you are a wheelchair user who needs that device mounted, then a wheelchair mount is a must. Readapt have three main types of wheelchair mounts. So they have the M3D, the H3D, and the L3D. The different mounts are for the weight of the device. So if you've got a really heavy device, then you look at the M3D. If you have a really light device, you might look at the L3D. Then there's a massive variety of parts that go with those. Now, wheelchair mounts mainly consist of the following parts. So you've got the base, the tubes, the joints, the sockets, and the adapter. We've already discussed the sockets, the UDS, and the adapter plates and the holders. So we're going to look at the others. So there are various different types of joints that can enable the wheelchair mount to do different functions. For example, you can get a swing away joint so that you can quickly lift and rotate the arm out of the way. The tubes have a range of sizes and shapes. There are some with bends which can then simplify the mount by reducing the need of having some joints. It can also increase the stability and support with positioning. The base is the key part of the wheelchair mount and consists of a frame clamp specific to your wheelchair. an extension, which is kind of like a coupler which enables the mount to be easily attached and removed from the chair. And then there's the tube socket, which is the part of the socket that the mounting arm fits into the base clamp. It's really important that you get professional advice when looking into a wheelchair mount or having it installed. It's important to ensure that when you add the wheelchair mount, it does not interfere with the function of the wheelchair. That could be like the tilting, it could be the brakes. It also is important that it doesn't cause a potential tipping problem to the chair with a user, without a user, going up a ramp. It's important that it does not impede the wheelchair user's line of sight. It does not cause a physical risk to the user. For example, it doesn't create a finger trap or cause a pressure sore because it's pushing up against the wheelchair user's body. It's also important to know that when to use and not use the mount. For example, it shouldn't be used when traveling in a vehicle. At PACE, we complete a full risk assessment when recommending or installing any wheelchair mounts. We have a full assessment kit which includes a wide range of wheelchair base clamps. If you'd like to know more about this, then do not hesitate to contact me. Wheelchair mounts do have a few downsides. Often the best position for the device is right in the middle, again where the wheelchair user needs to see to move safely. So there's a compromise of when they can use it. Can they use it when they move around? For example, their classroom, do they have to take the device or move the device out of the way before mobilizing? They can be adjusted to be moved out of the way easily, but if you have difficulties with your hands or arms, you may need to require someone's help to set up the device or move it out of your way. Also, the position you can get the device in is more restricted to the size of the wheelchair mount and how the mount is attached to the wheelchair. So you can't set up a wheelchair mount so much so that it restricts you traveling through a doorway, for example. But again, the wheelchair mounts are so important to ensure consistent access to someone's communication device across their day. So finally, we're going to talk about clamps and arms. Clamps and arms are similar to tabletop stands in their ease of being transported and then requiring a little bit of setup. There is, however, a little more skill required with the setup of the clamps and the arms in attaching them firmly and securely onto the right type of surface, typically a table edge. I love, however, how creative you can be in using these mounts. I've seen them clamped onto a fascinating array of things, from wall bars, chairs, furniture, windowsills, etc. You always, however, have to do a bit of a dynamic risk assessment to ensure where it is attached to is safe for the user and the device. These mounts are also on the cheaper end of the spectrum when it comes to mounting. If you are on a budget, there are also some alternatives to the accessibility special needs market. You can always have a Google into mounts for camera systems or have a look at mainstream brands like RAM mounts. Most of the mounting arms, most of the clamps in the accessibility needs market are the same. They're this Manfrotto super clamp. Manfrotto also do a selection of arms which some assistive technology sellers stock. For example, probably one of the most popular is the variable friction arm. I've actually installed a Tough Tray 2, so the RAM mount, onto a few Manfrotto variable friction arms to create my own cost-effective universal device mounting arm. So there is some good options when it comes to mounting arms out there that you can get off companies like Amazon, from camera companies and other websites. Well, I really hope you enjoyed the video, or at least found it helpful and informative. It is so important for you to be aware of the range of device mounting options that are out there, so then you can help in that discussion and decision making about the right device mounting options for you or your loved one. If you do have any device mounting questions or would like an assessment, then please do not hesitate to contact me. But thanks again for watching.